Okay, so Ben says this is an investor. Okay, corporate venture capital investor and also a corporation. So many corporations invest in startups. Okay? There are many reasons why, huh? But we observe a lot of cases huh, that corporations invest in other startups. In my perspective, there are some technological reasons. Okay? Big corporations, sometimes they need some technologies which is developed by startups. Then they invest their money, they invest in their assets in the startups, and then they assess the technology in the startups. Okay? Something like that. This is the simple mechanism of corporate venture capital, CVC. Okay? And real options. Real options. What is a real option?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What is a real option?
An option in finance gives somebody the right to do something, but doesn't like require them to do something. They can choose whether they want to or not.
All right, thank you, Isabella. Thank you, Steven. So real option is very simple concept too. Real option is two-stage, at least two-stage decision-making process. In the first stage, you can choose any actions, you can invest or not, okay, with a small amount of money, like a total investment. If you make a total investment in the first stage, in the second stage, you can make a bigger investment, bigger decisions. Okay? All right. So real option is something like you date with someone and you marry someone. Okay? So first stage, you date with someone because you need more information, right? More information. And then when you're ready to decide, you go ahead and marry or not. Okay? This is the real option theory, real option perspectives. So when you make a big decision, when you make important decisions, you don't need to make just one time make decisions. First time you make a small total investment, and then you can make bigger decisions in the next time, right? This is the real options. So the title of this paper, actually I'm recording this every meetings, then I will upload our meetings on my YouTube channels. Okay? So you can search my YouTube channel by my full name. Okay, just type my full name on the YouTube, then you will find my channel. Okay, then I will upload every meetings. So if you miss any meetings, if you miss any information during the class, then you can search up. Okay, you can use it. So corporate venture capital is a real option in the markets for technology. That means CVC is working like this, real options. First time you make an investment. CVC is a small total investment. Okay? So it's not a big money, just like $500,000, $1 million, or something like that. Okay? So you make an investment for the first stage. Okay? Then you will see how this startup is doing. Okay? Then, this company is really good, or I really need the technology is being developed by this company. Okay, then you make a bigger decisions for the next time, for the second time, like acquisitions, buying the company, or licensing the technology, or something like alliances. So this is a framework. This is a framework of the real options in terms of CVC. So why this paper is interesting? Because many people didn't understand why corporations actually make CBC investments. Then I and my two other co-authors, hey, look, CBC investments, they make CBC investment to use this mechanism because the investors, corporations do not know, they don't know exactly what technology is required and what this startup is doing well. So they need some time, they need more information. So corporations make small toe investment, CBC investment, and then they collect more information. In the next stage, they make a big investment. This is the mechanism. Okay, so this is a corporate venture capital as a real option in the market for technology. So don't worry if you don't understand this. Okay, right now you will have a plenty of chance to increase your understanding levels. Okay. All right, so let's talk about it. I'm the author of this paper. I know everything about this paper. So if you have any question, just let me know. Oh, just one more thing. Multiple regressions, because you're a senior, okay? This is the last chance you can understand what multiple regressions are doing, okay? So multiple regressions are very important tool, statistical or econometric tool, okay? So you need to understand. You don't need to understand everything about multiple regressions, but you need to understand how to read the result of multiple regressions. Because when you become higher position in your organization, well, when you become more and more important person in your organizations, when you need to deal with more critical information, probably you will have a better chance to face regression tables. So this time I will talk about how to read, how to understand the regression tables too. So after this class, my purpose is very simple. You understand how corporate venture capital, CVC investment, is working like a real option, and the multiple regression tables. That's it. Okay? All right. So let's talk about it. Okay. So I have two questions. Okay? The first question is, what is the story about? What this paper is talking about? And please share the story with your team. So you are going to have a chance to meet with your teammates. Then you help each other to increase your understanding levels. Okay? All right? Whatever. If you understand this thing, you can help others. If you understand other things, you can help others. Okay? I'm going to give you a 10 minutes meeting. Okay? So you will share the story of this paper. Okay? And then the second question is discuss how a real option approach. So we talked about real option approach, right? Two-stage decision-making process, at least two-stage. Okay. First, toe investment, you're dating, and the second one is the bigger investment, right? Your marriage, something like that. So discuss how a real option approach contribute to achieve competitive advantage, reduce cost, and increase product differentiations. Okay? Just use any topics, subtopics you can identify in this paper into the framework of this, the fundamental idea of strategic management. Competitive advantage, reduce cost, increase product differentiations. Again, the fundamental, the central, the core idea of strategic management is very, very simple. Okay? If you reduce cost, increase product differentiations, then you will have a competitive advantage. This is core idea of strategy management. Okay, it cannot be falsified. We are going to talk about this again and again and again. So, this is very, very open question. There are, there can be many, many, many answers because each one, any of you has, each perspective. Okay. All right. Then, any question, comment? Everyone's ready to meet with your teammates? Please say yes. Great, Jesse. Thank you. Kyle Walter. All right. Okay, I'm gonna create. How many teams do we have? 4 teams. Okay. 4 teams and 10 minutes. Okay. All right, you have 10 minutes. I'm gonna create your breakout rooms. So team 1, go to room number 1. Team 2, go to room number 2. Team 3, room number 3. Team 4, room number 4. Please go ahead, meet with your teammates.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
All right, welcome back. All right, so how was the discussion? All right, good. Okay, nice discussion. Yes, thank you, Isabella. All right, so thank you, Julia. Okay, so this is how we work with the team discussions. Okay, so you have a chance, actually many chances, many times to have a team discussions. Okay, every time. All right, so let's talk about that. The first question: what is the story about? Please share the story. Okay, so anyone can start it. Okay, please go ahead.
It was by story. You mean the article that you gave us?
Yes, please start up.
Yeah. So it was about corporate venture capital, real options, and R&D, but I don't remember what that meant. But it basically was kind of discussing how corporate venture capital can, real options can affect decision making when it comes to implementing new technology and other stuff like that, and other corporate decision making.
Great.
It's probably a super dumbed down gist, but that's what I remember.
All right. So you were talking about corporate venture capital. Now you have a sense about corporate venture capital, what that is and what it is working. Okay, thank you, Steven. Isabella?
Yes, I would argue that this paper is about how corporate venture capital is a form of strategic management, in that firms have real options to invest in these technology startups, but they can't necessarily wait, and like they have to act on it super fast. And that's a strategic management decision in itself, because if they act fast and they invest in a really good startup, they have the potential to increase their value and solve like financial issues and just overall increase the welfare of their firm financially. So corporate venture capital is a part of strategic management, especially in the case of technology startup.
Okay, great. Thank you, Isabella. Any other points? Anything else you want to add up? Anything else? All right. We already talked about this paper a little bit. So corporate venture capital working like a real options. Okay? Corporate venture capital can be one of the options that you will have to assess startups technology. Okay? Corporate venture capital, CVC. And also, how do you assess the startups technology? Like a license, right? And acquisitions and alliances. Okay, there are many multiple ways to assess a startup's technology. But why CVC rather than other types of ways, other ways to assess the startup's technology? This paper is talking about that. Okay, go ahead, Isabella.
Well, just to answer your question of like why corporate venture capital, it's not a huge investment of funds. You're not really putting everything you have on the line to invest in the company. So if you end up making a bad investment decision, it's not like the end of it all. It's not make or break.
Yes, that is the critical point this paper is focusing on. Okay? Think about that. CBC versus acquisition and licensing. Okay? CBC is just equity investment, not a big investment. I told you. Okay? $500,000, $1 million. Okay? But license, acquisitions, you cannot reverse this contract. If you buy a company, that's it. You cannot return that. Right? If you license the contract, if you license the technology from the startup, that's it. Done. Contract is done. You cannot return it. Okay? So license, acquisitions, not reversible, irreversible, and official contracts. Okay? Big decisions. CBC is not. It's just like a equity investment. If you don't like the company, you can just sell the equity, the stocks, then say goodbye. Right? This is a big difference between these two types of strategy. Okay? All right. Anything else? Any other points you want to add up? Yeah, CBC equals less risk because it's a small toe investment. So CBC is used as a tool to make a small investment, and then you still have a connection with the startups, but you can collect more information, something like that. Okay.
I had a question.
All right.
So the real option, just to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, the real option approach means that the money that's given to the startup, they have the option of whether to use that on R&D or not.
Yes.
So what is why real option instead of giving them money and specifically saying this is for R&D? And honestly, that might have been in the paper and it just went over my head.
Why? What? Your question is why R&D or why CBC?
Why use CVC for or why give them the option to use it on research and development or on something else instead of just saying this has to be used for R&D? Okay.
So CBC is like equity investment. It doesn't connect with the operation of startups. Startups will do anything what they want. Huh?
Gotcha.
CBC is working like a bridge. If I don't have any connection with the startup, which is I'm interested in, then for the next time, I don't have any choice. But CBC, if I make a CBC investment, then I have a bridge because I'm an investor. So if I am interested in the technology for the next time, I can assess it. Hey, guys, how about you? I'm your investor. I'm interested in your technology, something like that. So CBC is like a real option, not just a big decisions. Is it better, Walter?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So let's look at this. Probably we can talk about some context here. This is how that corporate venture capital work, CVC work. Okay? And there's a startup. Okay. And these are entrepreneurial financing sources. Startup can finance from independent venture capital, corporate venture capital, bank, and also they finance from internal financing. Okay, but we focus on this, on the CVC in this paper. Okay? So in this relationship, CVC corporations, corporate investors invest capital and some assets into startup. And startup return capital gains because corporate investors invest in capital, money. So startup should return some capital gains if possible. And also technological benefits. Like a technological benefits means, the further chances to have the technological benefits. Yes, Jesse, I'm gonna share the PowerPoint. All right, so this is the relationship between corporate investors and startup. Okay. Then the real option means in this context, okay, again, licensing acquisitions are very expensive strategy because you cannot reverse it. It is expensive too. It takes a lot of money. Okay. So corporate investors, okay, I'm a corporate investor, and Marshall has a startup. Okay. And then, hey Marshall, I am interested in your technology. Okay. But I'm not sure at this point. Probably I need some more time and information to decide the real investment, like acquisitions or like buying your company or the licensing the technology from your company. Okay. So at this point, I'm gonna invest 1 million. Not a big money, but it's a goodwill. I'm interested in the technology, and also I can internalize your technology if your technology is going well. Okay? This is a CBC. Marshall says okay. Okay? All right, this is the first stage. Okay? In the second stage, okay, I collect more information about the technology and I'm pretty sure, oh, this technology is good. Okay? Then the next stage is, hey, Marshall, I think your technology is really beautiful. Then I want to take it. Okay? Why don't you sell your company? Or why don't you license your technology for me? Right? I'm going to make a contract. This is the second stage decisions. If I'm not interested in Marshall's technology, then what I'm going to do? Yeah, just sell the stocks. Hey, Marshall, I'm not interested in your technology anymore. Your technology is not good. Then I'm saying goodbye. Something like that. This is the first stage decision making and the second stage decision making. Okay? Within the framework of your options. Okay? All right. So this is the model. All right. So this is neutral initiation. You can choose in the first stage. You can choose a CBC. You are a corporate investor, right? You can choose CBC, or you can choose R&D alliance. You can choose acquisition. You can choose licensing. Okay? Whatever you want. But for some reasons, you choose CBC rather than the three types of strategy. Okay? The first stage. The next stage, you have pretty much many options. If you have chosen CBC in the first stage, if you have chosen R&D alliance, acquisitions, licensing, okay, then actually there's nothing more done. This is final contracts. Okay, if you license the technology, then that's it. If you buy that company, done. There's no more further actions. R&D alliance too. Then when you have chosen CBC, you have second stage options. The next CBC or the next one can be R&D alliance, acquisition, and licensing, something like that. All right. So this is a conceptual model of this paper. So far, so good? Levy, you okay? Okay. Then, based on this conceptual model, I want to know why corporation use CBC rather than this strategies in this paper. Okay? So this is the same model. So corporate investors can choose CBC, licensing, R&D alliances, acquisitions in the first stage, and then given the choice of CBC, corporations in the next stage can choose licensing, R&D, alliances, acquisitions, and just hold that investment. Okay. You okay? So far so good. All right. This is the framework. All right. Great. Thank you, Stephen Grace. Okay. All right. So based on this framework, I was thinking about what cases corporate investors actually choose CBC or other strategy between these two, CBC versus other types of strategy like acquisitions and license. Okay. In the first hypothesis, 1A, think about that. Firms possessing weaker scientific capabilities are more likely to make CBC investments relative to outright licensing or acquisitions. Got it? So corporate investors have a weaker scientific capabilities. I mean, I'm a corporate investor. Okay? I do not know very well in that field, in that technology. Then what are you going to do? Probably I need to collect more information. I need to study. I need some more time, right? I need to have more time and study the technology, about the technology. Okay? Then CBC provides that time and information because CBC is just equity investments. You don't need to make the big contracts at this point. Okay? So you make some time. To delay your big decisions. Okay? So weaker scientific capabilities, that means I don't know very well the technology. Make sense? Okay, thank you. And the second hypothesis, the next one is firms assessing distant technologies are more likely to make CBC investments relative to licensing acquisitions. Exactly same logic. Distant technology means I'm a corporate investor. I have my own technology, but the focal technology is I don't know the focal technology because it's too distant. Okay? Then I need some time to study, to collect more information. That makes me make a CBC investment rather than big decisions. Make sense? Okay. Today I'm going to focus on only these two hypotheses. Okay, there's two hypotheses. Okay? Because it will help you understand this paper better. Okay, H1A, H1B. Okay, so you guys understand these two hypotheses? Please say yes if you understand. Okay, great. All right. Then to test this hypothesis, I use some setting. My data is about 597 samples 58 corporate investors in the biopharmaceutical industry. Okay? So 58, these companies are corporate investors, and these 385 companies are investees, startups. This is a framework of pharmaceutical industry. Usually, the old and big incumbent pharmaceutical companies invest in startups in biotechnology. Okay? Then, my dependent variables and independent variables. Probably we can talk with this table. Okay? I'm going to only focus on the first hypothesis, okay, at this point. So, this is the multiple regression table you will see sometimes in your job. Okay? All right. Each model is separated and independent. Okay? So model 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but each model is independent. Okay? So I'm going to focus on model 5 only at this point because it has all the variables. Okay? All right. First thing, multiple regressions. I want you to remind what you learned from the statistics class. Multiple regressions is a very, very simple technique. One dependent variable and multiple independent variables, right? So this model assumes that multiple independent variables impact a dependent variable, right? So you need to figure out, the first thing is you need to figure out what is my dependent variable and independent variables are. Okay? So in this table, when you look at this table, dependent variable is this. This is my dependent variable. So it says subhazard of CBC. In other words, the probability of choosing CBC rather than acquisitions and license. Got it? Again, my dependent variable is the probability of choosing CBC rather than acquisitions or license in the first stage. At the first stage. Marshall, you okay? All right. So now I know, oh, my dependent variable is the probability of choosing CBC. Okay. And my independent variables to test, okay, the two first hypotheses, my independent variable, the variable of interest is investors' scientific capability. Investor scientific capability. Okay? And this variable in this model, look at this, the regression coefficient minus, it's a negative. And it is not shown, but it is, this regression coefficient is significant statistically. Okay? So investors' scientific capability is negative and significant. That means when investors' capability higher, the probability of choosing CBC lower. Okay? In other way too. Scientific capability lower and the probability of choosing CBC higher. Got it? So these are my control variables. So look at this, the hypothesis. Weaker scientific capabilities, lower scientific capabilities, more likely to make CBC investment. The probability of choosing CBC is higher. Okay? weaker scientific capabilities, more CVC investment. This is consistent with these numbers. This number. Make sense? And look at this. Investor partner technological distance. This distance has positive and significant regression coefficient. So more distance, greater distance, and more probability of choosing CVC. More distance, more CVC, rather than acquisitions and license. This is consistent with this. Distant technologies and more CVC. This is how to read the regression tables. So based on these numbers, these two hypotheses are supported. So Isabel is typing something, so I just wait.
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
All right.
Since you just talked about how the investors with a weaker scientific knowledge were more likely to make corporate venture capital decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any data on whether or not they had higher, I guess, fail or like loss rates with the investment?
Lose the investment? What do you mean by the loss of the investment?
Like, would the investment not necessarily pay off as well as they were thinking because of their lack of knowledge? Is there any type of correlation there?
This focus of the study, this study is focusing on the only choice between CVC versus other types of strategy. It's talking about performance of investments, unfortunately. I understand your point. Okay. Then
Right.
some other papers I wrote, it's like a sister paper of this. I have some papers that is talking about the performance of investments. Okay. How actually the performance can be maximized. Okay. So how you make CVC investment will be focused in this sister papers, okay? But not this paper. This paper is just focusing on why corporate investors make CVC investment rather than other types of strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. So this is how to read regression tables. So these are just control variables, not the variables of interest in this context. Okay. All right. Then hypothesis 1 and 2, the second hypothesis are supported. These are just different, types of regression tables, but you don't need to know every types of regressions. Okay. You don't need to. Okay. So just basic thing, how to read it. Okay? That's enough. Okay? Because you are not researcher. So my first and second hypothesis is supported. Okay? Then, are we better off by having a real option perspective in strategy? Yes. If we have CVC, we have a better choice set of strategy in the next stage. Okay. So it is the same thing. Are we better off by having a date before marriage? Yes. Okay. And managers and policymakers may need to perceive how different types of strategy interact with each other. Okay. All right. So this is pretty much about this paper. Okay. Marshall, you are better? Okay. Levy, how about that? Okay, now please let me know. Now your understanding level, 5-point scale. What is your score? What is your number right now? Wow, that's good. All right, that's good. That's good. All right, it's about 4. A lot better. Okay, a lot better. Stephen is still. Okay? All right, but all right. So most people 3, 4 is good. That's good. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, then can I move the next question? Any question? Comment? Yes, I'm pretty relaxed at this point. Okay, so your understanding level is increased. Okay, a lot. Okay? Again, you cannot understand this one. Everything. Okay? Because you are not trained yet. You're not blamed. Okay? You are undergraduate level students. Okay? So if you want to understand everything about this project, okay, you need to spend more than 5 to 7 years in the PhD education. And also you need to study a lot. Okay? All right, let's move. Discuss how a real option approach contribute to achieve competitive advantage, reduce cost, and increase product differentiations. So we are going to talk about a little bit general concepts. Okay? So what did you discuss? Grace, you want to start it? Anyone can start it? Grace, you want to start it? Please tell us what you discussed with your team. Okay, anyone, team 1?
I can start.
All right.
Funny enough, the same question that I asked you, we kind of discussed in our team and couldn't figure out an answer about why we would use real options. But what we just talked about actually makes a lot more sense of like, it's more of a casual relationship with a startup. So that makes sense. And we talked about how a lot of times startups don't have funds for R&D, like don't have the funds they need for R&D. And so that can be it can be beneficial for both the startup and the corporation that contributes money. So that can create a competitive advantage and a good relationship for both.
All right, great. Actually, this paper is talking about the corporate investor perspective, but Walter, this team was talking about a startup's perspective. A startup has a CVC investment. They can reduce a lot of time, and also they can reduce a lot of resources to have the resource which are provided from corporate investors. For example, money. If corporate investors provide money, it will be much easier. Okay? And some assets. Think about that. Corporate investors, big company, they have big facilities. They have big research, research things, knowledge, or whatever. Okay? And they can provide it. Then a startup can reduce a lot of resources and time, okay, to develop their technology. So this will let them to reduce cost, okay, and make it possible to continue research, so increase product differentiation and achieve competitive advantage. If you reduce cost, increase product differentiations, then you can have competitive advantage. Okay? Good. Nice. And what else? Team 2, did you discuss this? Any other comment?
Pretty much all Walter was saying is what we kind of said. Just the fact that it doesn't really require a full investment. I guess that could reduce costs for CVC, I guess. And it also gives the startup company capital that they need as well.
Yes. Corporate investor perspective. I'm a corporate investor, I use a CBC as a real option, then I can reduce a lot of, misinformation, misjudgment, decisions. Okay. So usually if I make, the wrong decisions, it costs a lot. But if I use a CBC as a real option, as the stepping stone, then I can reduce a lot of cost, which is coming from the wrong decisions. Okay, great. That's why corporate investors will be better off by using CBC. Okay. This comment is partly involved with the Isabella's comment, the performance things. Okay. The other papers are talking about the performance. Yes. When corporate investors use a CBC as a stepping stone, as a real option, actually their investment performance are a lot better in terms of technological acquisitions. Is it better answer, Isabella?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, good, nice. Actually, based on your discussions, you quite understand this paper. Again, this is not an easy paper to read. Okay. All right, then team 3. Any comment?
Well, with the CVC investment, it really is just lowering risk overall for that company as compared to like a merger or an acquisition, because you really are limiting your exposure in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could potentially reduce your costs later on down the line, but you also have potential to make a lot of money as an investor and a shareholder in the startup if they do really well.
All right, great. So we talked about that point already. All right, great. Okay, good point. And team 4. Any comment? Team 4?
Nothing really like new. I think everyone basically covered it, but we basically just talked about how like using option and making your investment would just be more of like a safer bet. Just how we're kind of comparing real options to like the dating and marriage. Like you have more of like a small investment, and then you could kind of more like understand how your investment was doing before you made a bigger investment like marriage. So we really like that analogy.
Very good. Okay, absolutely. Okay, consistent with what we are talking about in the paper. Okay, very nice. I'm pretty much relaxed when I saw your numbers. Okay, it started from 2 or 2.5, but now your numbers will be 4, 3.5, something like that. I love it. Okay, I was a little bit worried about this paper is not easy to read. Okay. This paper is not for undergraduate level students, actually. These are for researchers, PhDs. Okay. So I was a little bit worried about it, but actually you did a great job. Okay. So now, based on your discussions, I pretty have a good sense, you pretty good understand this story and numbers. Okay. Once again, you don't need to understand everything, okay, about this story and regressions or something like that, but you still need to understand how you use this information, okay, as a business leader in your job. Okay? All right, great. I love it. You did a great job today. Okay? I'm relaxed. Okay? But the next paper will be much easier. Okay? Much easier. So don't worry. Okay, just read and try to understand. Okay, we'll talk about it as a whole class. Then you won't have any problem. Okay. All right. Any question, comment? Okay. Okay. Stephen, have something? All right. So if you don't have any question, comment, next time we are gonna talk about one more paper, which is much easier, okay? Then on Tuesday, so next week Tuesday. All right, and you did a great job. Okay, I love today your discussions. Okay, I will see you on Tuesday. Thank you so much.
You are currently the only person in this conference.